Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Thursday night. This is a show that I didn't plan, I have to be honest with you, but after what has happened in the past 24 hours, I felt quite compelled to come on and talk about what has happened since the statement came out last night, basically saying Jim is staying in a job. So I am opening the floor to you as I have done over the past week or so, and we'll be hearing from a very special guest in just a few minutes. So I'm going to have my tuppence, I'll let our guest have his tuppence, and then we'll open the floor to you. Just before we get into it, I have to very quickly thank you for the incredible amount of support that has been shown on this channel in the past few days. The viewing figures have been absolutely astonishing, and I am blown away by how many people have come on and watched. And we have added over 100 new subscribers in the past few days, and it's incredible. And it's giving me the belief and the feel-good factor to carry on and to keep doing what I'm doing here. And that's down to you guys. So you have no idea what it means to me, so thank you. If you're a new subscriber and you're watching, you are more than welcome. And as I've been saying for the past few months, we've got big plans here to try and bring editorially strong and interesting content about the football club, which I really hope you will enjoy. So thank you. Right. Let me crack on. So, like so many of you, and the reaction to what happened last night and the statement is like something I have never seen before in the time that I have supported Aberdeen Football Club, which is now 42 years going on 43 years. I've never seen a reaction like this. The reaction was frightening, and it was wow. So, like you, I'm at a total loss of what we are doing, how we're doing it, and where we are going. What I'd like to do is just address the statement. So just oblige me for just a few minutes, because I'd like to address the statement, because it can be interpreted in so many different ways, which is mistake number one. All it's done has set tongues wagging, it added fuel to the fire, and it left a great sense of confusion. The statement was middle ground. It was like the football monitoring board. All they're doing is kicking an old rusty can down the street. Statements, in my humble opinion, should always be precise, short, and straight to the point, so that it cannot be left open to interpretation. I believe all it did was do nothing but create a sense of chaos. We have become a laughingstock. We haven't just become a laughingstock in Scottish football, we've become a laughingstock internationally. We've made headlines all over the world. So what I'm going to try and do is, as most of you know, I am objective and I try and remain calm and as level-headed as I possibly can. I'm not a shouter, I'm not a screamer, I'm not a swearer. That's just not the type of person that I am. So I'm going to try and make some sort of sense of where this statement is headed. So first of all, I have a few questions. Is it a holding statement? Is that what it is? Are the club just simply biding their time until they can start the recruitment process for a new manager? Is the strategy now game by game? Is it? Because if it is, in, again, my humble opinion, that's an absolute nonsense. What happens if we lose on Saturday? Does he get sacked immediately and then we're right back to square one? And all we've done is waste a week. Now, this is just me playing devil's advocate here, so bear with me, and I really hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. There is a part of me, a small part, that I actually find the support of Jim and the belief in Jim from the board quite admirable. Because they obviously still believe in him. They obviously still believe he is the right man for the job, and what they want to do is afford him the time to get it right. But are they doing this with just one game? That, again, is where the statement is all wrong. They obviously think he is the right man for the job. Hence why they're backing him and they're supporting him. And that's why I'm saying there's a part of me that finds it quite admirable. But I will stand by what I said on Tuesday night, that I do think Jim should have been sacked after Monday's debacle. What I also think the club have done, which I don't think is fair, and again this is open to interpretation with that statement, is that I think they've put a noose around the neck of Jim Goodwin. And I have to be brutally honest with you, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair on Jim, and I don't think that's the way it should have been done or handled. Now, I don't have a great deal of sympathy with Jim because of the way he has managed our club, particularly post-World Cup. So I'm not defending him in any way, shape or form. But to put a noose around his neck, I don't think that's cool. So what are the board expecting? Are they expecting a Phoenix from the Flames type of escape act in just one game? Again, I'm opening it to you for debate. What I think should have happened was a definitive outcome and statement. He should have either been sacked or they give him a stay of execution. And they should have afforded him the time to sort out the playing side of the football club. Now, how long that would be, again, is completely open to interpretation, and it is open for debate, which I would like you to get involved in. So I'll finish off by saying that we as the fans, and it's my understanding that for Saturday's game, we sold out our initial allocation of tickets and we had to ask for more. Our support, and I shall continue to bang this drum, is the best in the land. And what really disappointed me about that statement was that there was no apology to the travelling fans that went down to that stadium on Monday night and made that round trip, which was ours. There was no apology. There was no thank you for your continued support. There was nothing like that at all. And that baffled me. It bewildered me. So we have no choice but to get behind the team. And I think no matter what happens, we as fans, we will always get behind the team. We will always drive them forward to the best of our ability. And that's what I think makes us unique. Because particularly the away support is phenomenal. Whether you are going to be there physically, spiritually, watching on from afar, doesn't really matter. We have to get behind the team. We have to push them forward. And you never know, we might be able to help get them over the line. A lot of people have asked me about why Jim has not come out and said something. To be honest with you, I get that. He is giving a press conference tomorrow ahead of the Hibs game. And no doubt he will get grilled. So it'll be very interesting to hear what he has to say about the situation. So that's my tuppence. I hope I've made some sort of sense. I always try to do that. And I hope I'm not talking nonsense. So let's get to our special guest. And then the floor is open to you. So if you're watching for the first time, feel free to get involved in the live chat. Leave your comments on there and I'll do my best to get through them. So This guy needs no introduction. He's quite simply a legend. Hi, John. Thank you so much for jumping on. It's lovely to see you, as always. Okay. Um, it's been a pretty horrific past few days. Mate, I've been thinking about how to ask the first question, and I think I've just got to ask it quite simply. What's your thoughts on the past few days?
Well, it's been a really difficult time for the football club, culminating with what happened on Monday night. It's a really sore one to take because it'll probably will go down in history as the worst ever result for the club and probably in the history of the Scottish Cup. So the club will have to bear that. Also, the current squad of players that played in that game will have that tag as well, as being part of that group that lost that game against the Minnows in Darvel, So it's been difficult, but the manager's openly said, throughout the season that our away form's been very poor. The alarming thing for me on Monday night was the real lack of commitment and desire to overcome Darvel. I was expecting Aberdeen to go out and start the game the way Darvel did, but they obviously Darvel pressed early, passed the ball well, and we looked as though we were the side for the lower leagues, not Darvel, So it was disappointing, and obviously the lead up to that games with the thrashing at Tynecastle, losing the semi final against Rangers as well. So there's been a culmination of, as I say, poor away results, and after Monday night's result, it was a big question. Will the board back the manager or will they sack him? So I think everybody was waited with bated breath to see what the outcome of it was.
What was your opinion on what happened, the outcome?
Well, I think I'm like the rest of the fans. It's like one of these. They've come out with a statement saying they're looking for an instant sort of
Reaction.
reaction to what happened on Monday. But I mean, what happens if God forbid that we go to Easter Road on Saturday and we don't get the right result and we lose that game? Did the board turn down and change their opinion and sack Jim, or did it then come out and say, well, we're going to stick with him to the end of the season? God only knows. It's a real difficult one, but I feel that the fans deserve the right to really know what's going on because. I mean, we're all passionate about our football club. Nobody more than myself, having played for the club and being a local boy as well, So I know what it takes to be successful with a football club, and I think at the moment in time, in my opinion, I think we're going backwards.
Mm.
I don't see the club going forward at this moment in time, and that's a real worry for me. We spent quite a lot of money on players that aren't even figuring in the first team, which is another worry. So but Jim's been given that opportunity now to try and turn things around. He's saying he's got the full backing from the squad and what. So let's see what Saturday takes us. I'm obviously like the rest of us looking for a real improvement in performance come Saturday. So we'll wait to see, but I still feel there's a hell of a lot of work to be done, on the pitch before we can really accept and move forward.
Mm. So, how do we move forward, John? Is it just game by game to get us through to the end of the season, even if we get that far with Jim?
Well, I mean, it's all cliche, take one game at a time, and I think at the moment in time it is. As I say, I'm really looking for a lot more commitment and hunger,
Yeah.
from the players. I don't see that at all at the moment, and that's a real worry for me.
Mm.
I mean, our fans travel the length and breadth of the country. They pay good money to go out and support the team. The least that they should get is commitment and effort on the park. I'm not really seeing that for quite a few players. So that's a worry. And it's up to Jim now and his staff to try and get that changed. Have a chat with the players. I don't know what he can say at them, but he has got to get an instant response from, according to the board. If not, then are we looking at another statement over the weekend to say that he's maybe lost his job? I don't know. We really don't know. That statement didn't really come out and say one thing or the other. It's just like we need immediate response. But immediate response could be that we could play a bit better, but we could still lose a game.
Yeah.
And then we're looking at our next couple of games, and there's more pressure being put on the manager and the players, and we could lose these games as well. And before we know where we are, we're in a dogfight near the bottom of the table, and we don't want that to happen. So I feel that the players have got to take a responsibility as well. I mean, at the end of the day, the manager picks his 11 players and puts them on the park. It's up to these guys to go out there and show the real commitment, hunger, and desire to want to play for Aberdeen Football Club, and go out there. And because early in the season, they've shown that they can achieve results for us, especially at Pittodrie. But as I say, our away form has been really poor. So we need to try and get that home form away from home and see where it takes us.
Brilliant, John. Thank you so much for coming on. It's lovely to see you.
You
And
too, Alec.
no doubt we'll catch up soon, eh?
Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Bye, mate. Bye-bye. John Hewitt. Do you know, when I came off that interview with John, and I was just putting all the artwork around it and I was editing it, and it made me realise how sad he looked during that interview, don't you think? And I just find the whole situation, particularly in this year, the 40th anniversary of what those guys achieved against Real Madrid, for me just makes it even sadder. Oh man, your comments. Thank you for watching. Brilliant. Again, just amazing. Right, Kevin Main. What's our club come to? A laughing stock. This is hard to swallow from the club that I've loved for 42 years. Fraser Gunn. Hi, Fraser. Jim should have gone, no doubt. The club have treated him very poorly. The statement is just so bad and an embarrassment. Scott Farquhar has said that statement that Dave Cormack put out was the most embarrassing thing I've ever read. Made no sense. Scott W. has suggested, and this is an interesting point which a lot of people are talking about, particularly online, that this might just be giving the board more time to sort out the legality of sacking him. It's a very good point. Kevin Watt has said, easier to sack him than keep him, with 99.99% of the fan base calling for his head. While you may agree or not, kudos to the board for standing firm. I have to be honest, and I am very fortunate to have a few folk follow me on social media. And after I posted last night in a little bit of anger, sorry, not one comment, not one in support of what had just happened. Not one. And I know the Evening Express put out a poll today about the manager. Should he stay or should he go? And I think it was up at nearly 80%. It was something like 79.2% said he has to go. Kaiser's come on. Hi, Kaiser. How are you? Dave Cormack has gone well down in my estimation. Ian Kuzar has come on and said, I definitely think the senior players are not behind Jim, hence the rumours behind Graham Shinney and Ross McCrory having a pop at Jim. Does anyone know if the rumours are true or not? All I know, and I genuinely don't know anything, is that it is just a rumour. But it is gathering pace. Elliot Aiken has come on and said, disaster of a statement. We can say we've never seen a statement like that from Aberdeen before. But have we seen any club behave the way Aberdeen have this week? What a mess. David Lamb has said, what a strange situation. Wonder what is going on in their heads. Elliot has suggested that Jim is as good as gone and he knows it. Pinger has said we're a laughingstock. And Pinger, do me a favour, don't come on this platform again. Scott Farquhar has said, sorry, I'll come to that later, Scott. Bear with me while I just go through them. Andrea said, the Darvel result was the pass-fail test. Squad isn't playing for Jim for whatever reason. Players shoulder a lot of the blame here too. So again, what I find really interesting, and again, let me know what you think, is that in the statement it said that the players and the senior players are right behind Jim. And then the players have come out themselves and said, don't blame him, blame us, we're the problem. So, if that is true, and if you are 100% behind your manager, then on Saturday it should be a formality against Hibs, shouldn't it? We should be coming away with a very comfortable victory, shouldn't we? If that is genuinely what you are saying. Because you know that he's potentially got one game to save his job, which means that you're going to have to play your hearts out. You're going to have to play like you've never played before. So it should be a formality, right? Let's see. Good evening, Chris Watt. How are you? Scott W said the players look scared to lose on Monday night. Owen Lowry said 5 defeats, 1 win. That's a relegation form. Not good enough. He's had 26 days to get a defender in. It's not good enough. The recruitment team have had 26 days to get a defender in. By the way, do you follow JJ Bull on Twitter? If you don't, I strongly recommend that you do. He put out a really interesting series of tweets about the whole recruitment process, Aberdeen's data, the analysis, the stats, how we played under Stephen Glass, how we're playing under Jim Goodwin. It is a fascinating read. I'm not going to give it away. JJ Bull on Twitter. It's a really, really interesting read. Niall Clark has said that he can't see Dave Cormack sacking Jim before the transfer window closes. There's definitely been some fallout in the dressing room between Goodwin and the players. Craig B has said he'll be out in February or March when we have nothing to play for. 3 years in a row that's happened now. Sack the board. Phil McLean has asked if I have a heater in the room. So the other night... So just to let you know, again, if you're watching for the first time and you're a new subscriber, so my studio is here technically in Germany, but I'm right on the Austrian border. So the Austrian border is literally 2 minutes from here. And where my studio is in a loft of a dentistry place. So my next door neighbour is a dentist, and he said to me, you can have my loft, I have a spare loft. So I was like, oh, fantastic. So it's literally a 2-minute walk from the house. And I didn't know that it didn't have any heating. And I'm bloody freezing because it's in the middle of winter here. The snow is like 6 inches deep. It's freezing, hence the big jacket. But no, still no heater. I said this on Tuesday, I still love how we can maintain a sense of humour through all this utter nonsense that we're going through. This is a really interesting question from John Grant. Is Jim Goodwin going to be allowed to sign any players? What a really interesting point. Michael Robertson has said that the board don't have a clue who to get as their next manager, so they're throwing Jim under the bus. Although this will buy them time to look for a manager, they're trying to put all the blame on Jim. Fraser Gunn has said, heading to Easter Road and will, of course, back the team. I have no doubts about that. Okay. Scott W. has gone on to say or suggest that they might be looking for a new man right now. Once they agree terms, Jim gets sacked and the new guy comes in right away. See, I have to be honest. If that is what they're doing, and we can only speculate, of course, I don't think that's the right thing to do. Just let him go. And just bring in interim. You know, it could be Barry Robson with Johnny Hayes. I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. But why, for me, prolong the issue with Jim? Just sack him. It's as simple as that. So there is a definitive answer there. Not just us hanging on as fans, players hanging on, and Jim hanging on. There's a definitive answer there. So it's sorted and it doesn't become messy. Jim Balfour, that room's got no heating. It's because he's got a cosy coat on. Do you like it? It's a Christmas present from Mrs. Begg. Okay. Jude has said that they're actually very shocked and concerned that Dave Cormack has dealt with this so unprofessionally. A lot of people, again, have come on and talked about, Simon Roy, hi Simon, that should have backed Derek McInnes with the funds that Jim Goodwin's caught. I can't help but imagine it. So many folk have mentioned that. A lot of people have said, Kaiser has mentioned that Jim Goodwin should have resigned himself. Yeah, there is definitely an answer. It's a good point, but you can argue that, and I don't know the legal terms here. I have absolutely no clue whatsoever. So I'm just speculating again that he was probably, if he does that, he might not get a payoff. I don't know. Yeah, this is an interesting one. And to be honest with you, Kevin Watt has said he finds it really unacceptable that some so-called fans appear to want us to get thumped at Hibs. To be honest with you, I just think that's frustration. I genuinely believe that's people just venting frustration and anger and just knee-jerk reactions and just not thinking it through properly. I get that. I get why people do that. I nearly did it myself last night and I had to calm myself down and delete a post and then rewrite it. Jamesy Thompson has said, like everyone else, I'm bewildered to know how he's not been sacked. The biggest problem I have, we clearly need defenders, but why would anyone want to come to our club at the moment? That is a shambles. Hang on a second. Yeah. Gary from ABZ Podcast has just got in touch. So there's a lot of podcasts out there at the moment, all of them excellent, I have to say. If you get a chance, listen to the guys on ABZ Podcast. Their take on things was really good, really interesting, funny at times, because the lads are, and quite rightfully so, are getting asked to air their opinions on national television, national radio, and one of the lads was asked, he said that he got a call to go down to Cormack Park. And he thought he was going down there to help Jim pack away his stuff into cardboard boxes, which really made me chuckle. Well done, lads. Keep up the great work. ABZ Podcast. Okay, so Craig Beer said, if the chairman really backs him, then we should expect to see signings before deadline day. What position should we sign? Well, we need a defender for sure. Charlie Howie has said, this just goes to show how badly this club is being run as it stands. John Henry Rogers thinks that Jim has been pushed under the bus. William Robertson has reminded us of the next 4 fixtures. Hibs, Motherwell, Hearts and Rangers. Don't we play St Mirren in there as well? George Webster has said, Jim had to go. You can't live past the Darfell defeat regardless of what happens. He could go on a 20-game winning streak, but he will always be the manager of our worst result in history. Niall Clark has said, even with Hibs selling Nisbet and Porteous, we could still lose that game. Scott W. has reminded us that Jim did come out and apologise to the fans on television in his television interview, which, to be fair, he did, as did Anthony Stewart. Gavin Penny has said, I honestly don't think they do believe in him. I don't think the club can afford the payoff and then the potential compensation needed to bring in a new manager. Reason is financial, not football. Interesting. John Smith, this is a great post. Local news here reported on it, and I live up a mountain in Alaska. Kevin Main has said, like so many of us, I questioned this as well on Tuesday night. Graham Shinney not getting on the park is the big one for me. He's the leader who would have rolled his sleeves on and got stuck in. It's unbelievable to not even let him take the field of play in a crisis. Could not agree more. Fraser Gunn also makes a very interesting point. The way things have been handled could definitely put off the next potential manager in addition to future signings. This last week or so could have could have long-lasting ramifications. It's a very interesting point. Bear with me while I just go through it, please. Sorry, guys, I'm just going through this. Frank Brennan makes a good point. He says there are just some results whereby the manager is sacked immediately after the game and they don't fit that category any better than losing a Scottish Cup tie to Darvel, for goodness sake. Yep. Scott Robertson has said the players have been gutless at times and they haven't shown the character or mentality to get the results. That said, we see little or nothing from Jim or his two assistants. He should have walked. You know, again, I said this on Tuesday night, that it is a collective. Even though Jim is responsible for what happens in terms of picking the team, setting the tactics, setting the team up, I genuinely believe, and this is just my own personal opinion, that he has lost the capacity to manage that team. Erica Mitchell is on. Hi, Erica. What I don't get is Stephen Glass getting sacked as manager when we went out the Scottish Cup to Motherwell last season, but Jim Goodwin stays after we lost to Darvel, who are 6 tiers below us. Yeah. Mark Irvin has said that Jim gets more input and advice on the touchline from the goalkeeping coach than he does as assistant coach. He does. Kaiser has said the way we set up against Celtic was enough for me. I'd have got rid of him after that. And a few people agreed with that comment. And again, very interesting point from Mark Lamont. And again, this is where, for me, the statement is just not definitive enough. And it's left this sense of chaos for me. And I think this is what Mark is trying to get at. What if we do beat Hibs and then lose to St Mirren midweek? Exactly. Chris Watt has asked, so what happened with Shinnie? Well, we don't know. But the rumours are going around that there was a bust-up after the Hearts game. Frank Brennan has said, I still look completely shell-shocked. I am, Frank. You've got no idea. Phil McLean said, we're going to thrash Hibs. Score, again, good point. Jim has instilled into the players that they can be beaten. Celtic proved it. That was a big issue for so many of us, wasn't it? VK, good point. They can't afford to pay him off, and they can't afford not to. Excellent point. Lee Doubles is on. Hi, Lee. The lack of commitment and fight on Monday night was what got to me the most. I think I'm still shocked by what happened. There was no cohesion at all. The players were miles off. So sad about it. Yeah. Kaiser has said, even if we do beat Hibs, what does it matter? The damage has already been done. George Webster has suggested it's like they are playing to get him sacked. Okay. Let me just go down to the bottom because where are we? So we've done just over half an hour, guys. Sorry, guys, just bear with me. A lot of people asking, why do we need so many fielders and don't have a centre back? Yeah, so again, there are so many people talking about this alleged bust up with Graham Shinnie. So I'll just give you a thought on that. And again, I'll just reiterate the point. I honestly, guys, I'm being brutally honest with you and very transparent with you. I genuinely don't know if there was a bust up or not. But let's say there was. Let's say there was. Now, I don't think that's enough to bench him and then, more importantly, not to play him. Now, whatever happened, and I was speaking hypothetically, if it did happen, Jim should have been professional enough to put that to one side, because Getting Graham on that pitch would have absolutely driven us forward. Again, forgive me for reiterating the point that I made on Tuesday, but he would have been able to grab that game by the scruff of the neck when it desperately needed it. And to put on a kid who's been injured for the past 6 months instead of Graham Shinnie, again, just bewildered by that. So was Graham carrying a knock? I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't know. So for me, if it happened, that Jim should have put that to one side and should have been more professional, knowing that Graham is one of our better players. He's been a club captain. He knows the fabric of our football club. He knows what it is like to play for that football club. He's got that experience. He's got that knowledge. He might have made all the difference. Okay. Gary Bjorkland, hope I've pronounced that correctly, Gary. Good evening to you. Embarrassing to say the least. This Jim Goodwin should have been sacked. And some of these players need to give themselves a big shake. Yeah, they do. 100% they do. Alan Suter has suggested that the statement was a holding statement until the window closes, so we don't have to buy any new players. As window will be closed, when do we sack him? No money for signings with compensation hanging over us too. Yeah. Elliot Aiken makes a good point. Jim's been apologising weekly for ages now. It's getting monotonous. Cami F. Manson has suggested that the statement has just added increased pressure to Jim and to the players. Sandy Smith has also said, irrespective if he stays or goes, the pressure that's been put on staff and players for the Hibs game is uncalled for. It's not going to be a free-flowing game, that's for sure. Yeah. Frank Brennan has suggested the one and only right time to sack him was when he walked up the tunnel after the Darville result and the chairman waiting for him and saying something like, "Can I have a wee word, Jim?" and then sacking him. A lot of people are talking about his body language, that you're not a big fan of his body language. Arms folded, all that sort of stuff. I completely agree. William Robertson, is concerned about our away form. Aren't we all, William? Okay. Right, guys. That's us done for tonight. Thank you so much again for coming on. The viewing figures have blown me away. It's just absolutely phenomenal. So we will be back on... Christ, where are we? Thursday night. So we'll be back on Saturday at 10 o'clock to preview the Hibs game. And we'll sort of revert back to the normal preview shows where I bring you a couple of features, a couple of interviews, and let you guys have your say as always. So thank you again. It's great to have so many of you on. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll see you on Saturday morning. Take care. Bye for now. Bye-bye.